Good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. All right, we got a lot that we got to cover, but the first thing I want to go ahead and cover is the fact that the market is doing some insanity after insanity after insanity. Now, you already know what I talked about from before on yesterday's show, and it's very important that y'all hit the like and subscribe button because I'm dropping the information and it's up to you to actually do something about it. And what I'm going to do is do a quick little recap of what we discussed yesterday. I already chopped it up and got it ready, so let's go ahead without further ado. Here we go. We have ourselves 13 minutes into the news releases, so we'll see how that goes. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep this MQ. Let's start with Tesla. Tesla is one that me and Tesla, we're not much of friends for the most part. Every time I try to play Tesla, it kind of beats me up. I do have some leverage ETFs on this one that I'm comfortable with more than I am with playing Tesla, but again, that's just preference at that point. So I do suggest you check out those leverage, understand their prospectus and their thesis, and maybe position yourself with something outside of that, because Tesla, it is violent in some of the moves. You see, we got multiple gap ups. You would think that you're looking at a 1 minute chart for the most part, but if we go over to a weekly, it looks a little bit cleaner. But if we go to a monthly, it looks like this. So I do feel like Tesla is trying to recapture into this area, which is 372, and they're grabbing liquidity in the process. But because of what we did in the middle of May, it makes me think that June will be bullish and they'll get the rest of this. But we are not stepping on the right foot. So maybe they're looking for a level of support, maybe the 300 level, before they give it a little bit of a bounce. So just keep that in mind. All right. All right, let's get to the point. So, listen, I'm no Nostradamus. I am no theologian. I am just a simple guy that puts a chart across the screen and look at patterns and just love to see what the stock market does. That's just who I am. I am who I am, okay? But let's just wrap this all in a bow on all of this crap, right? Everybody already knows Trump and Elon Musk kind of went into a little spizzy on Twitter, making the market react. Again, Elon Musk, Twitter, Tesla. If you've ever played Tesla before, you already know this whole entire combination is as volatile as a Molotov cocktail on a newborn baby's hand. It's just something crazy is going to happen. Okay? So if we really look at this chart on NQ, which is powered a lot by Tesla, a lot of the action is very similar. So now that we're powering back up after a massive drop, a massive rejection off of what I discussed already yesterday, I told you we have a fair value gap sitting right here. What it do, Rod? What it do? A fair value gap sitting right there. Okay? So with that fair value gap sitting right there, and we did not fill all of it, it gave a rejection. The rejection was almost imminent unless we recapture this area and that wick. It's just, that's it. Just that's all is said. Period. Right? Period. Because people that are here, here, and here, they're like, I want to get above here, and they can't get it up there. That means it's coming back down. At least to test the previous low, and that's what they did. And it went even lower, almost to 2 days worth of lows. It's not hard. It's not hard. Now that we're powering back up, again, we have non-farm payrolls. That's going to be later on today. Let me go ahead and pull up non-farm payrolls for y'all. Make sure we are fully prepared to take on the market, you got to know where you're coming from so you can know where you're going. And here it is right now. So we got unemployment rate, non-farm payrolls, average weekly earnings, which this number needs to come down. Listen, I never was a fan of $15 minimum wage. Y'all could come for me if y'all want. I am not apologetic on it at all. It was the stupidest thing. All it did is lock in inflation. But look at that crap. Wow. We got to deal with this after Elon Musk and Trump is fighting. Oh man, we're asking for trouble. So let's go ahead and get through all of this. There's just way too much to go over. So the first thing was then NQ. I already explained that. I think we're going to recapture. Of course, we're in a bit of a golden cross here, and I think this was just to get some liquidity before they really start to take off with the non-farm payroll. Again, it's quad witching. Quad witching can bring us all the way into this gap if necessary, but the 200 moving average is currently, I'm going to show you what I mean. This is the close, the open of this candle, right? The 200 EMA has crossed over the close of that gap, what started that gap. Now it's above the open. So that means there's a strong possibility we could use the 200 EMA as a test. So if we start to go fill that gap, it does not mean we're going to fill the entirety of that gap. Just keep that in mind. Now, do we have bearish divergences? Absolutely. Do we have bearish divergences coming to resistance? Absolutely. That's why everything started to pull back. It's not only because of Elon Musk and Trump. It's, do you know what's in front of you on these charts? You got a nice little push to the downside on the MACD right here. So this is your price action push to the upside, and then the MACD and the stochastic is failing to make the same highs here. You can use the histogram if you want to as well. It's failing to do anything about it. There is no momentum. There is no oomph to this. They are running out of steam. These are these indicators letting you know. Again, these calculations are historical, so they're lagging. This price action, we were making higher highs until we weren't. You should be out of your position when we start to break out of here, especially if we can't get into these upper registers in the stoke. Let's go over to oil. Oil is still inside of its wedge. I've explained this to you. This wedge, I think they're going to go ahead and test to the upside. I don't think they're going to get up into my 800 EMA, which is all the way up here at the original downward trend line, but I can see them breaking out at 64. Look for oil to be somewhere around $70 in the middle of the summer. Gold had a massive move to the upside, and they decided to go ahead and pull the rug on a lot of people, especially during that daily. Had a nice little peak to the higher high. You would think they go ahead and test it at 3448, and it is not. I got a lot of consolidation that's happening. This is pretty much barcoding day by day. This is the fourth day of that barcoding. Until this thing starts to break out of one of the highs or the lows, there's nothing to really trend. You can get some intraday trades, but hey, that's what you have right now. Don't forget to chart silver. Ask yourself this question. Why is gold barcoding but silver is still pumping? I think they are suppressing gold. What are they suppressing gold for? It could be because, yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I'm on the same 72. That's the measure move. 72. I don't want to see gas and oil to get to $72, but it's what the chart says. It's what the chart says. We have to follow suit. But silver is going to drag gold. Okay, so I'm looking at silver right now. Now that it's at this level, all gold has to do is break out of that box, and we're probably going to get some highs into that 3448, and it's probably non-farm payrolls, the one that they're waiting for. This right here is the British pound. The British pound is still pushing up, and we did have that rejection just like we had in the market, but we don't have a buy up. How come we don't have a buy up yet? We got a buy up here. Can we say possible trap? If gold goes, let me rewind. Let me put this all inside a confluence for you. This is why I do the commodities and everything all together at the same time. So I went NQ, looks like it's bullish. I went oil, looks like they want to push up, which is going to go ahead and strengthen the dollar. I told you about gold, which gold could go back up because silver could drag it right back up. So that's gonna weaken the dollar. So now you got a whole bunch of crap all mixed up inside of there. Now the British pound is detaching itself from the consensus that it normally follows. Usually the British pound going down means that the dollar should be strengthening. We're going to see how that looks going forward. Let's see what happens. All right, so we got ES. ES is also trying to recover. Again, massive rejection as we're getting into an order block. So either way, the order block or the fair value gap on NQ, which we haven't touched this fair value gap from February 21st on ES at all yet. So that's another reason why we could be coming down to retest to fill this gap, so that way NQ and ES can rebalance and be in sync again with the rest of the market. But again, nice rejection off of an order block. We're coming back down. Maybe come back to the 50 EMA. This is your Russell. Russell's just chugging along. Again, as the rest of the market comes down, Russell tends to run. So look for Russell to take some highs while it's putting pressure on the rest of the market as people run away from the international stuff. And then here's the dollar. Oh, wait a minute. The dollar's strengthening. The silver is pushing up at the same time. But that's a commodity. What shouldn't it be coming down too? Is silver telling us anything about gold, knowing that gold has not really made any true lower lows, and that the dollar is just going to go ahead and test this trend line? That's all they're doing, liquidating everybody along the way. There's a lot that you have to put together. Again, plan accordingly, right? So now we got all that together, everything tied up in a bow. Let's go look at some tickers. The first ticker I'm going to talk about is what I just went ahead and showed you on that preview right there. Go ahead. Yeah, good, absolutely. Because if you're really breaking this down, let's pull the poll. If you're really breaking this down, this was the flag. We already broke out. Are they holding gold down so that way they can go ahead and let their friends onto the elevator? Are they holding gold down because they know that it's going to go ahead and weaken the dollar? Are they holding gold down because they're about to get a whole entire, when I mean entire, I'm talking about entire new deal that Trump has been working on as far as over with China and the trade? Because as soon as that happens, it's going to strengthen an economy and strengthen their currency, which is going to have an effect on gold as they get out of gold and go into that said currency that's going to go ahead and do that. Could it be back into the US dollar? Are they going to go back into the yen? What's going to happen? Watch your pairs forex, folks. I'm not a forex trader, but the math keeps mathing when it comes down to it. So yeah, that it does look like a bull flag that just failed to make its next leg on itself. This is your pull here. Solid pullback. Should have broke out. Haven't broken out yet. Can turn into a double top though. Keep that in mind. All right. So now let's go ahead. We talked about Tesla. That's what I opened this whole entire video with. Listen, again, I don't know nothing about this. It's not. They can't hide. There probably was talks inside of the White House of, oh my God, can you believe Trump is yelling at Elon? They're probably on the phone and all that stuff. And then out of nowhere, Trump says something like key words. You know what? I'll cancel all of your government contracts, right? And then Elon's like, I don't give a damn, right? It sounded like Chris Tucker. I don't know, I'm just joking, right? But for the most part, those individuals are going to adjust their positions, and you already know there's the Nancy Pelosi portfolio that everybody follows, and there's a lot of government folks between Congress. They all are inside the stock. I will not be surprised that they readjust their position based on a conversation, on speculation, on the outside of the little bit of information that they know. But for that to happen, here's your tea leaves. What did I do yesterday? I explained to y'all that Tesla, it looks like a very choppy, inconsistent, incoherent type of candle and chart pattern. The price action on the daily is tough, right? So we went ahead and looked at the weekly. it still looks a little tough with these random gaps. So from week to week, it has gaps. When we went to the monthly, it looked a little bit smoother. Of course, there's small gaps, but it's a lot smoother than the other ones. But first thing I said was, it looks like after what happened with May, we're going to put in a bullish move. I was anticipating some type of fair value gap move. That didn't happen. But I did say we can come down to as low as 300, which is the previous high of this wick. Previous high of this wick brings it, and you can see the price right here. It says 294.86. That would have been the top side if we was going to go ahead and make a fair value gap where everybody's going to load the boat and they're bringing price down to those levels. That's that point. Now, the last part of it as a whole, it doesn't mean whatever goes into motion won't stay in motion. And what it did, it got to the 300 level and it pushed right on through. Let's look at this. Let's pull all of that up. This is all of yesterday's action. Look at what it did. Had massive drop-offs. Bang. Took out these stop losses. Everybody that thought they were going to push Tesla up took all of their liquidity. Warning sign. Another push. Consolidation right here around 1 and 2. The tweet or whatever news happened roughly around 2 o'clock. Bang. Again, it gets dropped. But you got to ask yourself this question. Was there anything that said bullish after we've made all of these actions here? Nothing. Nothing says it's bullish. So I ask yourself this question. Why would you have any bullish position unless you're holding above the 350 psychological level or anything? It's just that simple. Not that hard. All you have to do is just chart out your chart and you'll find all the tea leaves that is there. So now, what do you do with this information? Well, you got to remember, now, look at this. They're gapping it right back up. Again, I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy here or anything like that. I'm just saying that the tea leaves are there. We haven't made a lower low since in the middle of, 6:30 yesterday. And then when we opened the pre-market, I don't know, is it China that jumped in? Who knows? Because Asian session is a little around here. And then you got London session that kind of kicks off roughly around 3 a.m. And then 4 a.m. is when our session kind of starts. And look at this. And we're back up here. We're back close to the 300 level. Are they pushing it back up? I would say I'll be bullish to see if we can recapture all of this noise that we did. Maybe there's an apology by Elon Musk. I don't know. Maybe it's non-farm payroll that does it. Who cares? But if this thing breaks above 300, maybe 303 to be safe because this is the pre-market high. Look for this thing to go ahead and fill almost up into like 320. I will not be surprised. Can it make lower lows after? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, this thing is going to try to rebalance all of that noise. And that's all we got to do when it comes down to charting. Don't make it complicated yourself. Draw a couple of trend lines. Draw your Fibonacci. Make sure you have your confluences. And you'll be fine. Let's go ahead and run into some of these earnings. We are in the third month of the cycle. So let's go ahead and look at what could be coming out. Let me expand this a little bit so we can see some of them. Well, we looked at AVGO a little bit, and AVGO had decent earnings, right? But again, a lot of the earnings was probably priced in. Look at this massive move. Let's go ahead and kind of redo the charting here and give a little bit of a sense on how AVGO received such a 259 price or 265 at its high, and why the earnings probably was already giving you the tea leaves that it was going to be a solid earnings, but it does not guarantee that it's going to continue this upside, right? So the first thing I want you to understand is on the weekly, this is what it looks like. Again, there is all-time high at stake, right? So that's the first thing that is a complete target as a whole, right? So the first thing you want to go ahead and mark off your top side. That looks like the price that they were looking for was 251. Again, whatever goes into motion tends to stay in motion. I don't know if it's Newton or is it Newton's law? I don't know, maybe one of those things. But anyways, that is what happens. We were pushing up and it was pushing hard. And when it pushed hard, it was like non-stop. No one was going to be dumb enough to try to turn around. Oh, you know what? I can't wait to sell when I get up here. And I'm going to point that out in the lower time frames when it gets there, right? So now what is the first thing I've always taught y'all in some of my classes? There is no such thing as a higher high without a higher low. Stocks don't move just like this. They do this like waves, right? So the first thing that happens is the higher low before it makes a higher high. So that means when you mark off your level like this, then that means there was a support here, and that is your support. That is your pivot. That is where you draw your lines. Do not move your lines just because you randomly feel like that is support. Congratulations, you will fail. All right. So now we got a nice little push right here. That is our higher low. Let me zoom in for those that's on cell phones, right? That is your higher low that made a higher high after we broke through here. Even though we pulled back for earnings, we still above the high. I would love to see this close above here. That will then follow my thesis on what's happening with the monthly stochastic, which I've been eyeballing. But generally speaking, coming back over to the weekly, this thing can pull back. We are hot up here. Could we consolidate here? Could we pull back to like 225 and use a psychological 225 to push right back up? Possibly. But again, we're not worrying about what it can do. We want to know what it will do. So if we're going to worry about what it will do, then we need to make sure it makes a higher low, showing some strong support. Let it make that higher high, draw our trend, and know where our trajectory is going to be. So that way when they test it again, we come in and just go ahead and jump right back in. That's how this game goes. Look at this daily. This daily is even hot. Does this mean that you're supposed to get in right now? No, does not say for you to get in right now. Can you get in if it touches this trend line? Maybe on an intraday, because it might not last long, because that weekly is going to reset itself. And the last time it reset, June. There's another reset, massive move. Let's look at some of the reset of stochastics. Let's just use that as an example. So we're talking about from here to here. That was about a $55 drop. Let's talk about when it got to this peak. This one was about, it didn't get low enough, but that's still $27. And then when it kind of really scooped itself, that was the high that it created. That was probably a reaction to making new highs. And they recovered all of it on that pivot. Just plan it out. Plan it out. The opportunities are there. All right, we got ourselves 5 minutes before everything goes crazy with non-farm payrolls. I don't suggest you trade in non-farm payrolls. You know, make sure you know what you're doing. My first experience with non-farm payroll was trying to get an account funded for my prop firm, and that was the dumbest thing in the world. I got it funded and lost it in less than 20 seconds. All right, so let's go ahead and keep this going. What we got? CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike already had their earnings. I love this stock. I wish I paid attention a little bit closer and set my alerts a little bit better. But yeah, this was a nice little break, and CrowdStrike is still pushing to that upside. I do think it needs to go ahead and retest this trend line somewhere around here. But if we look over at the daily right now, I think a reset to the 50 EMA would be probably a choice. Let's go ahead and mark this off. I think we're now testing that here. So now that we're starting to break around this area, we're probably going to come back down and maybe test this pivot. I would love to see a 430 bounce off of CrowdStrike, and then it's probably going to get us to that $500 mark. I do think there's going to be a sell-off at 500, so keep that in mind. Alta is a good company. Adobe, you know what I like about Adobe is that they just do everything, and they're probably going to, if there was rules against monopolies, they're probably going to be one of the first ones to kind of fall apart because they own almost everything as far as creation, and you know, they pretty much own it. That's the best way to say it. They're in audio, they're in visual, they're in photos, they're in everything, right? They do have competitors, but they just own the space for the most part. This right here is the pandemic high around 2021, and then we had a massive sell-off. They try to recapture, and I do think their true base is somewhere around here at this 383-ish to maybe, let's just call it this. Oops, wrong button. That one. Right. Somewhere between this range is where their real price is, like at a discount. I would not be surprised that, oh, I just noticed this. Hold on. Look at that on the monthly. I didn't even realize May did that. We did a morning star inside of the wedge. Again, this is not an uptrend. This is what I like to call a potential uptrend, right? there is no higher low here, right? So if there is no higher low here, let me get my template, potential uptrend. If there is no higher high, sorry, there's no higher high here, this morning star could be the one that attacks these downward trend lines to make the higher high after this pivot, because that's the point. So the true trend that is breaking down is the one that was created from here, right? So when they broke this down, you could kind of see it kind of consolidate, but we're sitting on top of an order block. That order block, grab my box, that order block is sitting right here. So if that order block holds, look at that nice little bounce right there at the bottom of the block. Could this be the move? This is where they load it up because they know it's going to go up here. Are they aiming for that target? We're up 417. Let's go to the daily. Didn't we have a sell-off yesterday? Yeah. Did we go anywhere? No. Could it be that everybody just got out of every stock? Yeah. Could it be that we're going to go ahead and get through this gap? I would love to see Adobe get above 422, retest this 200 moving average, especially with the Stoke being reset to here, and probably get to 440. Again, we're in quad witching. I wouldn't get anything too crazy short term. You might want to go with something like a September, maybe, just to be on the safe side, even though it's going to cost a little bit more. All right, we got like less than a minute left here. Let's get over to NQ and watch the fireworks, because I'm pretty sure after Trump running his mouth and Elon Musk going into a tizzy, talking about, I don't know if y'all saw the Twitters, like it's just crazy. He's talking about, well, Trump is on the Epstein's files. Like, what? Are we really doing this? It's like it's like your ex is over here talking about all the crap that you do, all the things of your tendencies, your little flaws, the moles in your back, and everything, and just really coming after Trump. So I don't know how I feel about it, but I will say for the most part, it is fully entertaining. All right, let's drop down to like a 15-minute chart and see what can happen. This is what we did yesterday. We tried to recapture most of it, but you can tell the steam was out because they're like, I'm not carrying it through the news because they can wick this all the way back down and take out all that liquidity. Or do they wick it back up and do that? All right, we got like 12 seconds. Let's see what happens. What y'all think? Y'all think it's upside or downside? I think it's upside. I really think that Trump thing was just so that I could get the price down. Oh, yep, upside. Let's see how strong this upside is. Do they reposition themselves? I got a nice little fair value gap here that they could probably get. Oh, let me get that there. That's what I'm looking for. I say let me get that there. What the? Where is my? Oh my God! Come on, y'all better not give me a terrible price. This is my leap account. Oh, you got it. Really? Y'all still didn't let me in the trade? Ah, I was going to get that whole gap. I was going to get that whole thing. I don't see nothing. Look at it. Look at the volume. This thing is saying 5.75 spread. This is crazy. Oh, man. You got to love the market. You really do. So I'm assuming because of the leap rules, they're like, all right, freeze all orders. That's the only thing I can think of, because I clicked this button twice and I only could get one contract. So that's pretty hilarious that they're being jerks about this. All right, back into the fair value gap again. Let me give it another try. Nope, still not in. So, let me try to log out and log back in. Come on, Trade Station. Don't tell me y'all blocked me from the. Oh, there it goes. It says order rejected up there. Oh, it did get me in. Okay, hey, I'm up. Okay, all right. There we go. Now everything's kicking in. Okay, all right. All right, so what I want to see is that we kind of get back up into this area. I do, like I said, I am a strong proponent that the Trump Elon Musk thing is smoke and mirrors for the most part. Not saying that for you to go ahead and bet your whole house on this, but I am using paper money and having some fun going into my nostalgic days when I used to play non-farm payroll recklessly. But I do think we can get back up in here. Now, they might wait for New York session to get back up in there, but we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and check out the news. Let's see what they kind of call it. Is it something insane, or did the numbers make sense? Let's see. We got bearish from manufacturing payroll, non. Ooh, okay, that's bullish for the dollar. Bullish for the dollar. We people aren't working. Well, to be honest, I won't be surprised about that. There are some people that's probably upset with the way the economy is going and they're trying to find a better job because during the pandemic, people were job hopping like crazy because whoever was paying the most because they were desperate. And I think the dust has settled. So there might be some people that just sitting on unemployment or sitting on the sidelines thinking that things are going to get back to like the pandemic levels. And yeah, that's not going to happen. We're trying to drive inflation down, and the first thing they're going to do is take money out of the consumers' pockets because that's the only way you slow down demand. Hence the reason of stay higher for longer. Just put it all together. Earnings year over year is about the same from year over year, but the consensus thought it was going to drop. That did not happen. So that's bullish for the dollar, which can make the market drop. Yeah, non-farm payrolls and non-farm payrolls private. This is going to be very interesting. Very interesting. Well, and then this one, it's probably because Trump's been firing everybody that he can find. But that's a whole nother question as far as the governmental payroll. What else do we have here? Unemployment rate is steady, right? It's steady. It's not going up or down, and it's with consensus. I'm pretty sure they probably knew that. But yeah, what can I extrapolate from all of this? Mixed bag. That's probably what it is for the most part. It's a bit of a mixed bag. All right, so I am up 87 ticks. It has peaked down to like negative for a little bit while I was doing a lot of the talking. I want to. I think it can get it. I think they can get this here. And if they do, we're talking about getting all the way up inside of here and maybe getting where the whole entire rejection started, roughly around here. So yeah, we erase Trump, Elon Musk mouth games or Twitter fingers. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But they just talk too much. They just need just silence. All right, we're starting to eat up some more. Let's see if we can get this cap. If I was late to the party or whatever, and I wanted to try to get in, this would not be the best of times itself because a lot can go wrong with getting in. You could get your face ripped off depending on what your leverage is. But for the most part, I think this is giving us that push. You should see what's going on with Tesla. Let me go get Tesla for y'all. I'm watching that on another screen, and look, it's just again, if the market was really scared of Tesla, shouldn't it just break right back down into this gap and then start working its way down? I think they're looking for a target here somewhere. It could be traders that's getting there and they're going to get their money in right here and they're going to turn into sellers, and that accumulates to more people selling with the rest of shareholders, maybe. But yeah, I want to see what Tesla does today. I won't be surprised it's back to 320. I would not. All right, let's go back over to NQ. Let's see this party. Let's see what's going on. I think we covered a lot today. Don't forget, hit the like, subscribe, and bell button. Don't forget, also, I have my one-on-ones. They still are open. They're going to be open to the 30th. So get yourself a spot. All right, let's go find some tickers to play. Let me run through my list. This is my daily one. Let's do something long term with everything that's been going on. Because I think now you got to worry about quad witching for the most part. And you don't want to be the one holding the relative bag per se. Let's start from the top. Actually, let me open all my list. Let's get all of them opened up. All right. Starting off with Netflix. Still looks like a beast. I don't think it got any bottom anytime soon. I think people that was in like UNH, they probably plugged their money over at Netflix, park it for those hedge funds, 401ks, and everything else. Oh, Meta's in the verge of a very massive breakout. Meta above $700. I will not be surprised it'll go for new highs. Let me go ahead and show y'all what I mean. Look at what Meta's doing after the so-called sell-off of all tech and scaring the market. Again, there's a great saying out there, if the market is fearful, be greedy. If the market is happy, be fearful, or something along the lines of that. So just keep that in mind. I think they scared everybody from looking at the market. I'm not gonna lie, I was in a play and that thing kind of pulled back on me. Cost me like $150 in like 5 seconds, and I was like, okay, this is just a little volatile. Let me just step all the way back and just wait for the market to decide what it wants to do. But yeah, I think 706. No, 70. Let's call it $72. If it $702. If it gets to 702, maybe pull back to 689. And then we'll get a nice little bounce all the way back up. Let's put this on my favorite 45-minute scale. So what I'm saying is 702. Right? If we get to 702, which is like an all-time high in itself. Oh, actually, it's on a way to all-time high. Let me show y'all where I'm getting at there. See this block right here? This whole entire block is going to be tested now that we're here, but it's going to be tough. But because of the momentum, when we get above 706, it's going to really take off and probably get rid of, this is the pivot here. After 737, this thing is going to do something really, really insane, because this whole entire thing can fall and falter all the way back down. I know this is my older drawings, probably confusing you a little bit, but just bear with me. And then we could get ourselves 737. To be honest, I'll probably take some $800 Meta calls. That probably would be the play at that 689 if you can swing that. All right. But yeah, I would say 702. Why I say 689 as a pullback? I'm gonna show y'all why that is. 689. Let's go ahead and look left. It was an area of resistance. Come on, behave. It was an area of resistance, also support, and they're kind of fighting inside of the block. So we're in the middle. I would not get in right now. I want to see them penetrate or disrespect the 702, saying that, hey, bears, just a little FYI, you might want to get the hell out the way, right? If we can get one of those actions, then we probably could get ourselves a nice little swing off of that 689, using it as support. If it fails, we'll probably fall right into that 670, and this whole entire thesis goes out the window. But again, don't forget, micro trends make major trends, and that was downtrend pressure that was all here, and that micro trend made a higher high. They broke it down, they couldn't hold it, so they broke the trend line, but they didn't break the trend. Here's your higher low here, and again higher low here, and that's where our conversation is. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Let's keep this going. What else I got for y'all? Lockheed Martin. Microsoft. Ooh. Not too bad. It's still making higher highs. New highs, I should say. I wouldn't want to touch it per se, but if you can find an intraday play in it, it'll be good. On the weekly, it looks like they're really starting to really want to push Microsoft higher. Could a split be around the corner for Microsoft? They do like their splits. They do like their splits. I'm very curious on that. That's a possibility. All right, let's go ahead and keep this party going. What else we got? We got Microsoft. Let's go with, I don't like that one. Tesla is getting his butt whipped. But again, I really think, let me not talk about Tesla no more. Let's get past that. Let's keep this going. IBM is another good company. In the tech space, the originators of AI, it's been making new highs since 2024. I like it to pull back a little bit, but I don't think you're going to get that. I think they got enough. In the short term, maybe 270. This is IBM. Let me bring it on the screen for y'all. In the short term, 270, 275, especially the way the daily is starting. I just need a nice little cross here. But whatever happens, I think they're going to put in a bearish divergence. I don't think it's strong enough to get through here because no one's really trying to buy high to sell higher. That's not the goal. They're going to want to discount maybe down to 244 before they push it back up again. So look for a possible sell-off into these blocks before it gets really up there. Let me get y'all some cheaper tickers, something under $100. UPS. Listen, I'm not saying UPS is terrible, but this chart is not cute for a company that I want to put any money into. This thing looks like a bear flag to me. It has failed to really get up into these upper registers. It's been beat up and it's been suppressed a lot. I won't be surprised when they try to get back up here in this stoke. They finally makes a real move. But right now, we're fighting with a weekly bullish divergence that is failing to cross up. Could this be the cross up that it needs? Do they cycle out of tech and go into shipping or whatever this is called? Air freight and carriers. Maybe. But I know when it gets to $100, it's going to get smacked again. Starbucks. I did like Starbucks. I did a couple plays on it. I was part of the run up. I missed the run down because I was being a little hard-headed. But this looked like a bear flag as well. This is I call this the CEO gap, right? When they replaced the CEO, it started to do this. And then when they had solid earnings here, it started to push up. And it probably was frothy. No pun intended. Well, no, pun is extremely intended. But it was very frothy because they missed their EPS by 15%. And yeah, we had a massive sell-off here. All right, let's see what else. No. Banks. Let's talk about Citi. I know we talked about JPM yesterday, but banks. Can we get a nice little massive move to the upside? Ooh, I just realized something. Oh, and oh man, my NQ is still going. I'm up 161 ticks. Let's keep that going. But let me finish my Citi thing. Citi. This was, I forgot what chaos that happened. Of course, the housing bubble for the most part, but there was a scandal, if I'm not mistaken, here. But Citi is really trying to recapture all of this, and I think this is a very long base here. So I am curious, can we break and hold above? Actually, I'm going to call it here. They might be accumulating here. Let's call it $77, $78. A Citi above $78 with a strong close above, especially putting in what looks like a morning star on the monthly. I won't be surprised that Citi is $100. And if you're like, well, Jeff, why would you want to see Citi get that high? Well, you got Morgan Stanley. Let's do this in its entirety. Their shares float. Where are you? The shares float is 1.86 billion, right? This is Morgan Stanley. Share float 1.23. $131. Want something close to it. Bank of America is not, but I just want to kind of point this out. They have 7 billion shares float. You kind of get the picture. JPM is far away from. Oh, actually, Goldman Sachs. Let's do Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, 611, 305 million shares afloat. So if we're thinking of how much shares is outstanding out there, and there's just opportunities there, I think people stayed away from Citi because of the scandal, and they don't trust that they can really recover. Plus, they had to do a lot of downsizing. unlike some of these other banks in the housing bubble. Really did it help them, right? And my theory behind this is if this thing can hold that $78 level, let's get back over to it. See, right? If we can get back above that $78 level, it's really putting some pressure for that monthly to really take over. Not my 2 day. That weekly looks like this. It looks like it's really strong. Maybe even 84.50, 85 will be a selling point for this current price action. But I think it's going to find some support coming back. You know, one of those break and retest, breaks up there, gets up there, starts some selling, come back down, uses the 78 that was once resistance as support, and then probably get up into that 100 with a little bit of slow drip probably, because I think a lot of people are not going to trust Citi in itself. Again, looking at this weekly, you can see why this $80 is kind of crazy, and you can see that 100, if we get into that weekly fair value gap, you're talking about maybe 98 is going to be the next part that's going to be really, really tough, where they're going to try to sell off there. And it's, oh, my NQ is dropping. Maybe I should have locked in some profits. And waited for 930. But yeah, so that $98 is going to be possibly that rejection point. And when it rejects, it's going to go ahead and fall to that bottom. And then they're going to have to try to figure out and find themselves and see if they can push themselves back up into that 100. So just be smart about your positions on this one, but this one's probably one I would look out for some upside to 100. I don't know. You know what? Lotto. Let's talk about a lotto play. Something of if I had some disposable income and I was just going to do it, treat it like a scratch off. Citibank $100 calls. Maybe here like that. Oh, that'll be a tough one. That means it would have to probably do it under this trajectory here. If I was a gambling man, which I am not, I just play one on TV. That's it, let's call it there. I would say January 2026, $100 calls would be fun for Citi. It would be. But again, it has to break above that 78. Do not just jump into that thing. Close above that 78. Use that 78 support. Maybe a stop loss at 72. You probably could get $100 out of that. Alrighty. What do we got? Let me go over to my NQ. I was up 161 ticks. They took 60 ticks away from me. Let's go ahead and look at the 15-minute. What made that reach? Oh, that's why. We finished this, but it looks like they're not getting on the top of this. I wanted that top. We'll see. We will see. All right, let me get into the second month. And we got like 10 minutes before I get up out of here. If you got some tickets, go ahead and put it inside of the chat. And I'll see if I can get into it as well. Amazon. Let's talk about oh my God, Amazon, you're driving me crazy. I had a feeling they was going to do that. Oh, man. I had a feeling I should have. So I got some Amazon positions because I'm very curious on Amazon on its upside. When we had this drop, I was like, no, this is just BS. Because if we look at the daily here, oh, I already drew this out. I guess we talked about this quite a bit. This thing looks like an inverse head and shoulder in a way. It looks like they were kind of creating this. There's Prime Day that's coming out very, very soon. Or at least the run up usually happens before Prime Day hits, right? So I kind of was in it for that. And I was just like, this kind of looks good. Like it's going to continue to the upside, especially when I came over to the weekly and I was like, oh, we got a nice little cross of the MACD. If this thing pins the stochastic and cuts through the zero line, this thing can print something lovely, maybe to like $230. I think I've been in since about 205, 207, and just going back and forth. Will it get to 235 before quad witching? Maybe. Would it do it after? I don't think so. Reason why I think that is because, again, how I explained Amazon, I'm gonna say it was during the show, is that last Prime Day was the 2024, was roughly around July, and you could kind of see it had a nice little move. Hey, good morning, good morning. Oh, go ahead and get my intro 101 down below in the description, and just sign up for that, and I'll break everything down for you. Intros are free. All right. So let's see. So this was a June. This it kind of started in May, but a nice little May June run up. Prime Day was in the middle of July, and then he had a sell off until it recovered it. So I'm assuming if history repeats itself, we may get that same said action. So go ahead and do that. I think this thing was a pullback. If you didn't jump in yesterday, look for a strong support somewhere and then get in there. But at the end of the day, I'm already in this thing, and this thing was already given a golden cross right here, which even made me more emboldened. Well, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of flinched. The market was playing a little bit of chicken with the drop that they were doing with everything on the market. I saw Amazon come back to fill the gap, and I was like, oh man, tomorrow they'll fill the rest of the gap, and then I'll buy it then. Oh boy, was I wrong. Look at this bounce, and it was just non-farm payroll that gave that push. So, we get it wrong sometimes. We get it wrong. What else I got? Let's go into Uber. For those that knows, I can't stand this company, but the stock looks good. All right. Nice little move. They had solid earnings. They are returning money to shareholders, and they're giving lots of surprises. Like they reported this, and that boosted their stock. But I had questions about this. Like, wait a minute. Are y'all suppressing? And if you know this company well, they are the king of smoke and mirrors. Look for the documentary on Uber, and you'll understand what I mean. Right? And I'm not saying, again, because of GAAP, they're not allowed to do certain things or whatever. But again, just like how I feel about Robinhood is the same way I feel about Uber. I just don't think their ethics are in line. And I won't be surprised that when it got to like $93, these people sold off because the earnings wasn't that strong. Let's see their guidance. So they're guiding for 0.62. Well, the question is, if you were guiding to 0.49, where did you find this extra money at 3.2? Was it payroll cost? Was it just new insurance discount? Was it robbing your drivers? All right, I'm just joking. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. We got ourselves 62 cents over here. 12 billion is what they're guiding in revenue too. So that's probably why this stock is still sitting here. They're anticipating, since the increase of revenue is supposed to come into play, or at least they're guiding for that. Actually, that's a tough sell. That is a tough, because again, a lot of you know what? They're an international company. I'm going to pull back on that because I can't comment about South Florida when, again, they're a very international company. Now, with Lyft, there'll be a different conversation. I won't be surprised that Lyft actually pulls back a little deep in the summer. But you can see they are beneficiaries to a lot of what Uber is doing, because what it's doing, it allows for them to get a little bit of sentiment play. And I think that's why you're getting these push-ups here. So just keep that in mind. All right. What else we got? Hood looks good. If you know, you know. We talked about this in itself. Hood could get to that $80 very, very soon. I won't be surprised for that $84 level. But again, get some runners at this point. Do not just sit there with your full position. A lot can happen around here because it's at its top, tippity top point. All right. Yes, Rod. since they so skilled with the ski mask and the ammunition, and they're good at doing that, they might as well go ahead and merge because their ethics are kind of in line. They're pretty much 1A and 1B when it comes down to ethics. I agree. And I think I already talked about the third one, but let me give you some cheap ones in the third month. What we got? What we got? What we got? TGT. Now, this one has been beaten up a lot. It has. It's the craziest thing. If you don't remember this is the company that was trying to keep up with Walmart. If you look at the chart, let me pull this in a weekly, and I'm gonna do a quick compare for y'all. WMT. Put this on a new price scale. It's completely detached, right? We're talking about mid 2022. They were kind of like above Walmart, and Walmart was just like the dogs, right? And then after that, it seemed like right around here, because of inventory costs and some other crap, I can't remember exactly, but they started falling off. They overstocked on TVs. They had to do massive sell-offs. A whole bunch of just random crap they got hit with. But right now, with everything that's been going on with the economy, companies like TGT, Walmart, they kind of beneficiaries to, bad economies, because guess what? You got to go with the cheaper stuff, and bulk sellers kind of have the best prices. So I think they're kind of building their base above this 95. I think they really wanted 100, so they're probably just liquidating people here. You can see the weakness, like we're not getting up enough on the stochastic, so for the most part, it's just being suppressed. When this finally releases, we could get ourselves a solid weekly bullish divergence to the upside. I won't be surprised that we get to like 123 or somewhere around that ballpark. But yeah, the only reason Walmart price is at like 90 some change, let me go ahead and get that, is because this went ahead and did a split over here. So technically, Walmart's increase is probably new investors coming in because it's such an effective price for them to get more shares. That's where that comes in. So TGT is just left holding the bag for the most part. All right, that said, thank you for watching. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button, and share it to friends and family. All this stuff is free. It's up to you to put in the work. One-on-ones are available if you need a little help on that work. They're down below. I got them into the 30th. And Get Rich and Fit Trying, we're still rolling and going. I am still a tub of lard, so I'm doing solid moves for the most part. But I do owe one gym session for making a major flaw and mistake that cost me my my PA account, and we're gonna probably record that and put that out on YouTube too. That's the goal, right? Hold me accountable. All right, so y'all have a great day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.